Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Unemployment rate among recent graduates is more than double the rate for UK workers as a whole, according to new figures showing how the pandemic is hitting the youngest workers hardest. And I do wish that I had sound effects queued up sometimes, because hysterical laughter here would be sublime. And that is not laughing at the poor graduates who were just force-fed the idea that more education is always better, but it is just the absolute state of it all, when it's not really that the mask slips, it's more that the chasm that we were all standing over has opened up and gone, yeah, welcome to the real world. And that seems to be what it's like, because it's lovely. You've got a degree, fantastic. That the theory is all there, brilliant. You've been institutionalized, and you definitely understand how everything works when all the parameters are dictated for you. But then something happens, and the issue with any institution is that it doesn't teach you how to adapt very quickly. It doesn't really teach you the skills which are almost impossible to teach and instead have to be picked up by yourself. And so when something like that happens and the unexpected arises, people who were so used to the routines and being told what to do have absolutely no clue what to do next. And therefore it comes down to people who have more of the grit, if you will, than the intellect, in order to slog away and get things done. And that is what created the societies in the first place. You know, that you need to have that strong foundation in order for the intellectuals to be intellectual, and that's what we're facing again. And of course that is twinned with the other horrific fact for university graduates, which is that lots of degrees have been tarred with a brush of, oh well, they're just going to be taught about things that are going to try and ruin our company. Mainly, of course, what they call social justice and intersectionality and critical race theory and all that utter horseshit. And therefore, yeah, they'd rather not hire somebody who feels so entitled and thinks that they deserve such things and are going to try and teach you how to do your job you've already been doing for a few decades, and instead simply hire somebody who has a hobby. They're actually quite enthralled about what they're doing and is incredibly grateful to have received the opportunity, and will work day and night in order to prove that they were the right person to hire, and will do everything in order to see themselves, and of course the company as well, succeed. And if they are let go, then they're either going to find somewhere else where their skills are going to be appreciated, or they're going to make something themselves. They're going to be able to adapt, because that is what they have had to done their whole life in order to get by. So hopefully this will be the last straw. I know I've been hoping that the last straw is come and gone so many times already, but perhaps this is the great awakening, if you will, to say, oh, I see, having this so-called safety net of a degree and the backup plan, plan B, the second option, isn't actually reliable. And of course it's similar to what Will Smith said, I suppose, which is, I don't have a plan B because it distracts me from plan A. And that's the thing here as well, that of course you're going to get setbacks. I'm not saying that's not going to happen. That is always going to happen. You're going to have hard times, bad periods, all that kind of thing. But it's kind of irrelevant in a way, because that's just taken as a fact of life. And therefore, what matters, as cliche as it is what you're going to do about it. But it really does. That at the end of the day, luck is skill meeting opportunity. And so if you've got the skills ingrained already, then you're going to be able to make something worthwhile happen. That tragedy can beset you, but if you've got ideas, you think laterally, and then you've actually got the determination to apply your skill set to it, you will be able to turn a tragedy into a success. As, in particular with these details, those fresh from university had unemployment rate of 12%, ONS found. Without degrees, 14.6%. Yeah. Which is disturbingly similar. It really is. Because you got university graduates who are supposed to be the higher achievers, and of course are saddled with monumental debt before they even start earning money, compared with some people who had no chance even trying to get into university. They hadn't finished school, or they're delinquent, whatever it might be, and yet they're very similar percentages. That is incredibly disturbing. And there's always an uptick in Q3 for university graduates not having a degree. A university graduates not having a job, because of course that is after the degree. So that's natural. But to see it at this level, that's a little bit unprecedented. As I say, unemployment rate for all graduates was lower, showing impact on young. Yes, if you've already got yourself established and you're able to work from home, it's not going to be such an issue as if you're in a entry level or what they call high vulnerability job. This also ties in with, of course, minimum wage fucking people over. Yeah, because you could either go with, oh well, there's a difficulty coming up, and therefore we're cutting wages so that you've all got jobs, and hey, if you want to increase your workload in order to earn more, you're more than welcome to do so. It's just the fact of the matter is, at present, this is all we can afford. But if you wish to provide more value and therefore keep more of the value that you create, go ahead. Instead, it's just, well, yeah, we can't pay you less, so some of you are going to have to be fired. And of course, there's absolutely no chance we're going to take on new people, and we're going to be far more selective in who we hire. And of course, more people of who we fire. If you eliminated the minimum wage requirement, people would actually be able to get the first foot on the ladder. Yeah, it's like an apprenticeship without all the necessary regulation and tax rebates and credits and all that horseshit, which could all be done away with, in which case you get rid of all the admin as well. If you just say, hey guys, sure, hire who you want to hire, jobs are good. And how about schools and education system actually instill skills instead of just viewing your body as a way to move around your head, as the way it seems to be at the moment. So they say those fresh out of university had an unemployment rate of 12% in the third quarter of last year, compared to an already dire 5.1% rate for the UK as the whole, the ONS revealed today. But across all graduates, not just those fresh from university, the unemployment rate was lower than the UK-wide rate, showing older, better educated people are faring better. Yes, of course, for a couple of reasons. One is because they're going to have a more stable job at that point, and they're probably going to be more skilled, and so they can work from home. But also because degrees, although the number of people getting them has been on the up and up, the number of worthwhile degrees has been on a steady decline. Which means if you take somebody who earned their degree a few decades ago, it's going to be worth far more than somebody who earned it last year, for example. So they say, figures have already shown that younger workers experienced the largest decrease in unemployment and the largest increases in unemployment in the 3 months to July last year, as we see from the graph beneath. That's quite the hockey stick they've got going on there. Good job. As you can see, it always goes up in Q3 for the reasons aforementioned. Then they go through the proportion of graduates in high school jobs required in pandemic. As we see there, that they are mainly, of course, high-skilled. Very few are low-skilled, which is what you'd hope. You don't want to have to get into 40 grand of debt just to say which one prize with that. But is sadly almost a reality. But I'm pretty sure there are several, in fact, many success stories of people who go, yeah, could I go into university? Because I don't really know what to do and get a degree which I don't really care about. I'm not really going to apply myself and just get into a load of debt. I'll instead go get some work experience, even at a chain store like McDonald's, which their recruitment and their career progression isn't half bad, actually. And then they work their way up during those 3-4 years, become the manager of their little local chain, and end up hiring and being in the superior position of their contemporaries who have just come out of university and are graduates. And so now the the ones without graduates are telling the ones with graduates with degrees what to do, because they actually know what they're talking about, because they've avoided university and done something more worthwhile. Funny that, but that is not as uncommon as you might think or hope. We'd all like universities to do what they were supposed to do, which was, you had a particular specialty, you wanted to be able to research that and question people and find like-minded people, so you went into an area of expertise in order to develop those skills further, and then you were one of the few who could push that further for the betterment of us all, and the rest of us would make sure that your life stayed together, because you'd come out with the new ideas in order to make our lives better as well. That was the little give and take that we had going on. Whereas now, it just seems like an extension of education for no apparent reason, other than, yeah, we're all more educated, and that's definitely better. Not really. Not really, if the education is actually just dogma. So, no. So they say the unemployment rate for recent graduates remains below the non-seasonally adjusted youth unemployment rate, aged 16 to 24 years, and that's how they do it, which stood at 14.2% and 13.6% in Q2 and Q3 of 2020, respectively. Yes. So they're saying of recent graduates who are going to be, at least 20 years of age, into the early 20s, compared with age 16 to 24, and quite a few of those below 20, of course, won't really be all that fussed about having a job at present, because most likely they'll still be with their parents anyway. Especially at 16, the vast majority would be. And yes, I am aware that even a third of, bloody 35-year-olds still with their parents? Something outlandish like that. Which is blamed on house prices because of building regulations that you can't have enough homes. Yeah, and then of course with more people driving the price up, and we all know how that's happening under a conservative government, then you're driving house prices up. But of course, the work on infrastructure, like communications, like schools, like hospitals, like roads, like sewage, isn't being carried out nearly as much as it needs to be. Why? Because it isn't really seen. It's like, oh, we can house more people. Yay, now there aren't as many homeless and people can have housing. Yes. It's like, right. What about overflowing drains? What about the backlog of sewage? What about traffic jams, meaning that worker productivity has nosedived? Aren't they also problems? Oh yeah, but they all seem theoretical and therefore it doesn't really matter. You can't really put a number on that, can you? If we say there's many people had homes, instead of you've wasted an extra half an hour going to and from work, it sounds better. So that's what we'll focus on. Good job. So the ONS also found that the graduate skill mismatch, the proportion of degree education workers in jobs not requiring a degree, fell by 5 percentage points to 25.5% between Q3 2019 and Q3 2020. Which is actually positive, maybe. Of course, it depends how many jobs didn't used to require a degree, but now do. Because quite often it's just trying to say, well, seeing as degrees have dropped so much, the rest of the education has as well, and therefore we're going to require a degree for the same job because we need to see that you're actually competent, because we can't trust that being in state-sanctioned education for 15 years is enough, so let's go for 20 instead, and let's hope that after 2 decades in state-sanctioned education, you're actually worth £7 an hour. Fingers crossed, guys. You're great. Whereas again, take your chances, learn the worthwhile skills, get a job, make a job, and you'll be far better off. Far better off. It comes down to the individual personality. It's not just what you know and who you know, but it is also your work ethic as well. And if you have that dedication, determination to outgrind and outwork other people, you will get to where you want to be. Far more than just trying to read up about it through the theory on the side. Actually applying yourself and understanding that the next step is only going to come when you make the first step. That's going to get you so much further in life, believe me. So they say that the high vulnerability jobs in the hospitality sector were particularly at risk of reductions in hours and pay. Obviously, things like waiters and waitresses, and also jobs that can't be furloughed, can't be done from home, like construction labourers, security guards, cleaners, skilled trades occupations like electricians, gardeners, tailors. These are less likely to be classed as key workers or be done from home, the ONS said. Yes, it's an essential job for you, your community, those around you, your family, your loved ones, but the bureaucrats in the office a couple hundred miles away, they don't think so, so they don't really give a shit, because it's not going to be an obvious vote buyer, is it? Whereas saying to protect this behemoth of a bureaucratized entity of the NHS, which was supposed to be made to protect us, but now we have to protect it, that's going to fare so much better. Somehow, somewhere, apparently. But you've got to love this little conclusion, as it's International Women's Day, so let's just roll with it. The majority of roles in this group, the high vulnerability group, are likely to be held by men, so men worst affected. Although, let's not jump to that conclusion yet. Yes, it's true, but there's some way we're going to make women the victims. Women are the majority among the very worst paid, the ONS found. Yeah. It can't be, of course, that they're with somebody who can take care of them instead, and that's their life choices because they prefer people to things. Definitely not. Instead, money is all that matters. Yes. Forget your spirituality. Focus on materialism. That's what matters. All hail the GDP. As some 72.3% of occupations with median hourly wages below the low wage threshold were women. Low pay jobs included cleaning, domestic or kitchen, and catering roles, which are mostly done by women. Just can't fight the stereotypes. And almost half of all teenage workers are in the high vulnerability group. You don't say. And in a way, that's kind of good. Like, yeah, you know these really low paid jobs? Yeah, what about them? They're mainly being done by young, inexperienced, uneducated people. No way. And is that the way that they're going to get skills and experience and education? Yeah, it is. So that's going to put them in a better place when they're older? Yeah. And they're going to start off having minimal risk to their employers? Yeah, it is. So they're more likely to get their foot on the ladder? Yes, it is. Great. I sympathise for those that have been affected, obviously, but it's actually a positive thing to know that they're in the so-called high vulnerability groups, because that's where they should be. You got to start somewhere, and yeah, start at the bottom, make your way to the top. The harder the battle, the sweeter the victory. It means all the more if you're starting at the bottom. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Do you think, yeah, degrees, they're going to have to change now, especially with a lot of it being said, you got to do it online. People are going to think, why am I doing this when I could just go to the Open University instead? If I'm not going to be able to get the partying and the like from university and getting away from the parents, then I might as well do something else in order to have the same outcome. Or if you think, nah, they'll bounce back because it's always important to have a high educated population, even if the education in and of itself isn't focused on the contents of. Either way, let me know down below. Always intrigued to you guys have to say. And as always, until next time, have a good one.